you Ambassador Ahmad for this afternoon tea
Well, it's good to see you
วันนี้ดิฉันชวนท่านทูตอาซิฟอาหมัดนะคะเอกอัครราชทูตอังกฤษประจำประเทศไทยมานั่งจิบชายามบ่ายนะคะที่สถานทูตคุยกันสบายๆนะคะก่อนที่ท่านทูตกำลังจะหมดวาระและจะต้องลาจากประเทศไทยไปในฐานะเอกอัครราชทูตนะคะ Thank you for joining us in ตอบโจทย์ Ambassador Ahmad Congratulations for the great success of the opening ceremony of the Olympics It's such a very British identity, isn't it? You have so many ingredients in it, sense of humor, art and literature, and even the royal monarchy.
Yes, I think it captured just about all the things that people imagine us to be, which is a country that's sort of sure of itself with its history, modern as well, and the transformation that they showed from the countryside into the Industrial Revolution and forging steel, and then the fireworks that followed. Tremendous use of creativity, volunteers, even the health service, to show something like that, the first country to have universal health care, with children jumping up and down from Great Ormond Street, and actual nurses, real professional nurses, for a day becoming theatre performers. I thought it was a wonderful advert for our country and made each and every one of us feel very proud that day.
The Queen has joined James Bond in the opening ceremony. Was it a big surprise to you?
It was a big surprise to me because I didn't expect the Queen to participate herself. There were rumors that James Bond was going to do something. When I last spoke to you, I said to you that our Queen had a wonderful sense of humor. Well, here you see it in full. What a fantastic spirit. Even the corgis joined in doing the salute to James Bond as he walked into number 10.
Can we say that this is a real proof, full proof of British sense of humor?
Yes, it goes right from the top, and everybody else, and throughout the whole thing there were little jokes that some British people would have appreciated in full, and also I think many viewers worldwide would have seen the sense of humor. Mr. Bean, for example, he doesn't have to say anything.
Yes, just showing his face.
Yeah.
Talking about the Queen, Her Majesty the Queen, her image from this time on will be very approachable, very closer and friendly to people. Do you think she like her image to be this way?
I think this has been her image all the way through. From the very first day when she had her coronation, that was the first televised coronation, the annual Christmas message, the walkabouts. In the Diamond Jubilee, she went up and down the country. As head of the Commonwealth, she has travelled further than any other British monarch in history. I think, if anything, she has set an example for any other royal family to follow, which is that to be with the people, in tune with the country's sentiment, and to grow with the country from being a very young princess who assumed the throne at an early stage in her life to someone who has developed into a persona who's well known and respected the world over.
But in terms of transformation, has her role or her appearance to the public has changed a lot since the time of the untimely death of Princess Diana in 1997?
That was just a momentary blip, and it was a national mood that went in a way which was unprecedented for the UK. If the history is told properly, what people will realize that her priority at the time was to make sure that the two young boys were looked after, protected, and that their grief was kept private. And then when she realized that there was something that the nation wanted from her, she obliged. But I don't think there's been a moment where the British public have, in any sense, had any doubt that she was absolutely the right person to represent us as the monarch and the sovereign. And the celebration of the Diamond Jubilee was living proof of that sentiment.
Do you feel the past 2 years are golden years of the UK? Last year you have royal wedding. This year you have Olympics and Diamond Jubilee of the Queen.
It's been a fantastic 2 years for us, and at a time when we probably need to project our country to the world in a new way and to reassert, if you like, the basic things that we're good at, our traditions, our vitality, and the fact that was shown in the Olympic ceremony, the fact that we are still one of the top 10 manufacturers of this world, not something that we did in 1850. We still do it now. If you look at an Airbus with Rolls-Royce engines, over 67% of it is British content. This is a modern economy. We saw the inventor of the World Wide Web, Sir Tim Berners-Lee. Now, how many people would have given credit to the UK for that? In medicine, in pop and film culture, we are setting the pace for the world still. which I think is something we can celebrate. And these occasions really give us the platform on which we can actually demonstrate these inherent capabilities that our country has.
Will it be worth the investment given that Eurozone countries are now in economic crisis and the UK, the shape of the economy isn't quite good either?
No, these are difficult times for us, but then, countries have been through this before. I remember in 1997, Thailand faced great difficulties, and look at where you are now. There are economic cycles, there are changes that our country has to make, but I think one big difference for the UK is that this government came into power with a mandate from the people to put things right, to put our finances right, to promote our commercial credibility around the world, and to re-engage with the new world, as we call it, or the emerging world, to make sure that Asia, Latin America, Africa become integrated in what we do. So I think the challenges are great, but it's something that our government has risen to, and every single embassy, every single ambassador is charged with this as the number one priority, to work for the recovery of our economy and to use the great assets that we have.
Does it mean to freeze the budget, cutting all the expenses?
Yes and no, in a sense that we have all been through budget cuts, the Foreign Office as well as other parts of government, because that's essential. But what we've done is that whilst we've been cutting back in places like Europe, we're expanding in other places. Here in Thailand, the embassy here, in my time, will have grown from 120 people to 150 people, with many areas, from providing services to our citizens, to trade, to dealing with international crime, migration. All of this capability is increasing. Also, we've just announced that we will appoint a dedicated ambassador to ASEAN. At the moment, our ambassador in Jakarta does both jobs. So we will see, if you like, taking the AEC as it evolves as a very serious undertaking for us. So yes, there are cuts, but we're also reprioritizing our emphasis in regions and countries that matter, and Thailand is right up there as a country that matters to the UK.
How would you maintain the shape of the UK economy? Because I guess that you cannot be completely excluded from Eurozone countries' crisis.
Certainly not. I mean, just under half of our exports go to the Eurozone countries, and we want to see the Eurozone succeed and recover, and to do so on a sustainable basis. I think quick fixes and just borrowing is not going to solve the problem. There has to be a fundamental realignment of expenditure and of some of the social and economic policies. And we will work with the European Union to achieve that. But at the same time, we have to look hard at our own economy. I think we have a very thriving service sector, including being the international financial center of the world. That will remain, but I think we need to also go back to some of the other things, to invest in research and development, invest in education, including vocational training, so that our workforce is more skilled and ready for the challenges of the future. But the biggest emphasis for us is to tell British businesses to become more courageous and more far-reaching, to come out to Asia, to have a look, because there are many businesses here, from small to large, for which there is a ready British market. Last week, I opened the Rolls-Royce showroom in Bangkok. Now, that's one end of Thailand's prosperity, where people are going to be buying in increasing numbers Rolls-Royces, but they also have the mini dealership, so there's something for the other end of the budget as well. But at the other extreme, you can look at what we do on just teaching English. The British Council and other education providers who are coming here, some of them are just individuals who are selling their skills to companies in Thailand. So a one-man business in the UK can find a market in Thailand, as well as our well-established, iconic names.
Is it still the main asset, the priority asset of the UK, having teaching assistant, teaching people of how to speak proper English?
I think it's essential for two reasons. One is that it's essential for Thailand. Your neighbors, as part of the AEC, are going to have to communicate with each other. The only common language is English. It is a global language of commerce. But of course, for us, if your language of commerce and international engagement is English, we have a head start, because we're using our own language to communicate with you. But that does not mean to say that we shouldn't learn languages in the countries where we are, but I think it gives us a bit of a head start. And if you look at the payback is big. if you have an English-speaking country, then more people will watch our films. They're going to buy education from the UK, or if we establish over here, they'll come to our universities here. If they read a brochure in our language, they're more likely to understand that, and the manuals on how to use equipment. So I think it's much more than just learning a language. It's about people's livelihoods and their connectivity with the world. And I think Thailand is increasingly part of the global system.
In terms of global geopolitics, we can now seeing how the number of people who can speak Chinese is increasing,
Yes.
and we can see how China is becoming more dominant in the world economy, in the world geopolitics. Where would be the place of the UK in the world geopolitics? Do you have to push on English-speaking capacity to counterbalance with China, with Chinese language?
No, I think, with a country like China, which in a way is actually just recovering its position. If you go back to the time when it was a middle kingdom and it was very prosperous and many inventions came from that great country. So, you can say, well, maybe China is simply coming back to where it was. English will be very widely spoken in China, and people are saying that very soon there'll be more people speaking English in China than in the United Kingdom, which will be quite an interesting development all round.
Can it be the other way around?
I wish that would happen because it would be a great asset. But we have many Britons who are Chinese themselves from our heritage, not just in China and the mainland, but also in Hong Kong. So British Chinese people are already there. But I think yes, it would be better. But we need a China that is open to the world, that is buying more, consuming more, not just saving and exporting. And if that happens, then we would welcome it. So we don't see China as a threat, but very much as an international partner. Where we want China to see the world a little bit more differently is that when you are an economy of that sort of size, when you have that sort of political power, with it goes responsibility for human rights, for conflict resolution, not just to see things from very narrow national interest, but to wear some of the universal values that we have. And China as a Security Council member, I think, has a huge opportunity to make its influence felt.
Regarding the Thai politics, you've been here for nearly 2 years. Do you have a much better understanding sense of what's really going on in the country in terms of politics?
Some people say that the longer you study Thai politics, the less you understand and know.
And do you feel like that?
No, I think what I feel is that firstly, by making sure that we had contacts with all political parties, small ones and the big ones, you end up in a situation where you understand where people are coming from. If you promote some of the universal values of democracy, the rule of law, about the role of the opposition, about dealing with the big issues of the day, whether it's the economy, corruption, climate change, terrorism, then I think you have a very mature discussion with politicians, which we have had. And the fact that I have access to the opposition as well as the party in government, and we have good conversations, shows that we are doing our job properly and the relationship is good. But it also means talking to other factions as well, and that means having good contacts with the military, the Privy Council, members of the royal family, as well as civil society representatives and media and commentators. And with that, you develop a picture of what is and isn't happening. And my current assessment really is that in Thailand, people have tried all the extremes of coups, of street unrest, of using extra parliamentary processes, and no one has really come out an actual winner. It has been at some cost, sometimes the cost of lives. And so I hope what will happen is that people will go back to using the institutions in a constructive way.
The parliament?
Parliament, law, and recognizing the balance of power, what the upper house has to do, what the real role of an opposition is. Because traditionally, in Thailand and in many other countries, the opposition has seen their role as simply one of overthrow. How quickly can they overthrow the government? Well, guess what? When they're in power, that becomes the role of the new opposition. I think constructive opposition is about challenging and holding the government to account. If they said they were going to reduce the minimum wage, the one tablet per child, cheaper universal health care, flood control measures, the AEC, solving the problem with Cambodia, dealing with migrants here, well, then challenge them on those issues. Have you delivered what you have promised? If you haven't, then you go to the people at the next general election and say, this government promised you these 10 things, and the scorecard is either good or bad. And same for the government. They need to defend themselves on their record. There's a tendency in countries where politics is still evolving and developing for what I call politicking to be the priority rather than governance, and it's far more important to be competent in government. You can score political points every day. You can come up with defamation charges. You can say this is unconstitutional. You can say I'm not sure what's wrong with this policy, but I'm very suspicious. Well, these things fill the media, but they don't actually do anybody any good.
So you are assigning for both government and opposition party to really focus on content and pursuing from the formal mechanism.
First and foremost, for both the opposition and the government to agree what they have in common. Because very few countries have a situation where they have radically different foreign policies. The AEC, I'm sure that both sides have a huge margin of agreement. I think if they thought about it carefully, they would see sense in resolving the dispute with Cambodia, because there are many economic opportunities, including the exploitation of potential oil and gas fields. So if you agree on the big areas of economic policy and overall policies about how Thailand should be governed, then the country prospers. And then where you have a clear difference because you have an ideological position or whatever, that you're entitled to do. And if your electorate will support that, that's great. But I think what has happened over time is no government's been absolutely sure how long they'll be in office. And if your horizon is week to week, month to month, it's impossible to plan infrastructure links, railways, flood defenses, barriers against the rising sea level. These are long-term, expensive projects.
As far as you can see, what's the possibility for national reconciliation in Thailand? Because you have discussed with insightful comment with both opposition party, civil society and the government of Thailand.
I think it depends on what people define as national reconciliation. If national reconciliation is so that one side can be absolved or one side can benefit from it, then I'm not sure that is reconciliation. National reconciliation, if you look at the model that we saw in South Africa, etc., is where people put the higher goals and ideals above their personal goals and their factional goals. So in that sense, if people say that we want to return to a situation where the law of the country is respected, that the police and the military do their jobs that they're assigned to do and not go beyond their remit, if some of the misdemeanors are forgiven for the greater good, then I think that is reconciliation. But if reconciliation means one side loses and the other side gains, that's a very inappropriate use of the term.
I'm sure you must be following what's really going on in Rakhine State.
Yes.
You are also a Muslim.
Yes.
What would be your suggestion in order to solve violence which is going on in Rakhine State?
In any situation where there's a minority community, whether it's in Thailand, in Myanmar, or even in our own country where we had the long-standing issue in Northern Ireland, what you need to do is firstly recognize that everybody has a right and a voice. You cannot disown people that belong to you. That's the first thing. The second thing is that people should have the rights that other people have. You cannot say to one community, you cannot intermarry, you cannot leave your village, and that what we really want you to do is to leave the country and go away somewhere else. I think there's a responsibility for neighboring countries from Myanmar, whether it's Bangladesh or the boat people who turn up on Thailand's shores or Malaysia, to treat these people with compassion until it's safe for them to either return or to go to a safe haven. I think it's the responsibility of the current government in Myanmar as well as the opposition, equally important for the opposition, to recognize when they talk about ethnic conflicts, to recognize that the Rohingyas are part of that issue, and you simply cannot close your eyes to people in need. But I don't see it as a Muslim issue or one of refugees, because these are simply people who have become displaced within their own country, and that should happen to no one.
Does that mean the Western government should review the policy of lifting sanctions against Burma regarding the situation in Rakhine State?
I don't think one situation alone should be the criteria. We have suspended, not removed sanctions for a very good reason, because we want to see how this government conducts itself over the years. And we have said that amongst many issues to be resolved, including political prisoners, the settlement with the ethnic groups along the the borders here with Kachin, the Karen, and others is important, as is the situation with the Rohingyas. So we will be looking at that. We will be looking at the enforcement of children into labor, including the military, the way women are treated, the way the refugees, when they return, how they prosper, and when people are going through big developments, whether they're industrial estates or urbanizing, that people's rights are preserved too. Because what we don't want, from the UK's point of view, is having campaigned for so long for an oppressive government to give way, is to allow other people to exploit the people of Myanmar.
If people ask you to encapsulate Thailand, what would be your explanation?
The one word that describes Thailand is resilience. You know, so many things have happened, positive things, difficult things, man-made, natural, and yet the essence of a Thai, the cultural traditions, their ability to persevere under difficult circumstances, be forgiving, and the strength of the family and friends, and the country's openness, and yet being able to maintain its uniqueness. I think those things, all of it comes under what I would call resilience, both cultural, social, and, if you like, endemic in the fabric of the nation, which is something that we can learn from too.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you for joining me in ตอบโจทย์ and good luck for your trip, the next destination after Thailand.
Sure. 12 months as a student and back in Asia for 4 years.
ขอบคุณค่ะ สวัสดีค่ะ